Hi, my name is Tim Westbrook, and I am the host of the I Love Being Sober podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to provide educational content to people that are struggling to get clean and sober, parents, spouses, family members, and friends of people that may or may not want to be clean and sober, and anybody that is interested in learning more about what successful recovery looks like. Today I'm here with Peter Brunzelle, and he's going to share parts of his journey through recovery along with what he has seen that works. Peter is the executive of WisHope in Wisconsin. WisHope is a community-based recovery organization providing resources, recovery housing, addiction treatment, peer recovery coaching, and training and education. Peter, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here. It's good to see you.
Thanks for having me. It's good to see your face.
Yeah, absolutely. During these crazy times, I guess I'm grateful for Zoom.
Right? Yeah, I keep dreaming about virtual reality and like you can actually have the goggles on and the headset and we could be in the room together. I don't know if you've ever used one of those, like a good one. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I actually have one of those virtual, the Oculus, I think is what it's called. I've got the virtual. I'm actually gonna. I don't use it I don't use it very often, but I'm gonna bring it to Pine Top because it's really cool. Because you can be literally anywhere. And have you ever done the plank challenge?
No. Oh,
where you essentially go into this elevator and you go and you press which floor, and if you go to the top floor, there's a plank.
yeah.
So you're walking out on this plank, and you're looking, and it's I don't know, a 50-story building or something like that. You're looking around. I mean, it's real, man.
Yeah.
And so when you look down, it's really scary. And
I've just done a couple. Like I was at it's a local shop here and they had a whole setup and they put it on my head and immediately like I'm in a spaceship and I've got aliens around me and one bumps into me. It felt so real that it was just like this is the coolest thing ever. I was like,
yeah.
oh,
No, it's super cool. And with that plank challenge, if you jump off the plank, you really feel you lose your stomach.
Sure.
I mean, it really feels like you jump out of an airplane. So it's kind of crazy.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I think there's many uses for that in the future as that becomes more rapidly used. So that'll be cool.
Yeah. Well, Peter, I guess I'd like to start by just hearing a little bit about you and kind of your journey into recovery, not as much of what it was like, but more so what happened and how did you, and you can tell me how long you've been sober and kind of tell me what you think is, share whatever you feel like sharing that you think may be helpful to people listening.
Sure. I started my recovery when I was 18 years old. It was in 1994, so it's been 25 years, and I got sentenced to adult court. I was doing some non-community-based activities, but most of my youth was spent, figuring out that I liked drugs and alcohol, and I knew pretty quickly. So I hit a wall, when this happened, and I had been locked up many times, as a youth. And so something different was changing, though. It was more about like this glimpse of the rest of my life was in front of me. And I just saw it. I saw this is the rest of my life. I was facing a lot of time for prison, and I ended up spending 2 years incarcerated, and I had a bunch of on paper time and a lot of other things, hoops to jump through, but it just didn't seem to matter. I had that glimpse, of what life possibly could be like if I was to change, if I could, right?
Yeah.
That was the question. Could I? I didn't know. I didn't know if that was even possible. I didn't know that was even an option.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
until that moment, like I didn't know there was an option to maybe do life different, you know,
yeah,
and then when I saw that there was an option, I thought, really? But I
yeah.
also thought the same moment, I thought I'll never be able to do it. I, I I'll never be able to do life differently. It's not possible for me, and it
Right.
might be better if I was to end it, like end my life. Is there a way
Wow.
of doing that? Because I don't see that. I don't know how I could ever do that. How I could do life differently,
Hmm.
and that thought circled through my head. I'd say the first 5 years.
The first 5 years after starting your journey into recovery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
just
Now,
not
did
knowing.
you okay, so backing up, when did you first start drinking and using? When did you start? What's your drug of choice?
I'm a garbage disposal.
Okay, okay.
I I liked I liked it all. Like I like to have a big mixture, and we didn't have heroin really back then going on. That was like
Yeah,
this weird thing that happened. This is 25 years ago. Something out there, somewhere out there, there was this thing called heroin. Sure, but um, I liked I like to mix my crack with my weed with my booze.
okay. Now, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Wisconsin, so
Okay.
kind of jumped around a lot, and I had a few excursions outside of Wisconsin when I would run away and live on the the streets. And it wasn't like I didn't have a place to go live. I did.
Right.
I was just always running, and I grew up in a tumultuous home front
Okay.
that I was running from pretty much. You know, that was my my tool was to run away, and then using made it right. So I was probably like 11 or 12 when I first tried. And my stepdad, he worked at Miller Brewery.
Okay.
They got a lot of free booze.
Milwaukee. There you go.
Yeah, lots of free booze too. So
Uh-huh.
the whole garage was like filled with free booze because they got free, you know, booze. So it was just filled. So
Yeah.
he'd never know when I'm taking a case or two or three or four. You know, he didn't never know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, I'm 12 years old. And
Yeah.
at that time, I think right now I'm over 6 foot, but back then I was just like 5'2", 5'3". I mean, so
Yeah.
you know, and going at it. You
Yeah.
know,
You were probably pretty popular with your friends.
I wasn't good at making friends.
Okay.
Had a difficult time with that, and that's the thing that really changed when I used. Like when I picked up it, I looked over and I thought, now we're friends. You know,
Right.
the people that were around me, I'm like, now we're friends. This makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would have one or two friends and that was it. But I also, with my background and my family, that I kind of skimmed over it, but they were also very religious. So it was pretty much you couldn't hang out with anybody that wasn't in the religion. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so they had a heavy hand, we'll call it that,
Okay.
and keep it simple. And then add that religious layer there. It was a lot of isolation too, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
separation from basic life.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have a lot of skills of interacting with people. But when I used, I was like, all right, we can
People
hang.
like me. I
Yeah,
got friends.
this is easier, you know, like
Yeah.
we're bonding. So, but a little bit was good and a lot was better. You know, that was
Yeah.
my feeling. Like if this feels good, then what's it going to feel like if I keep going? And then soon enough, I thought I saw like almost right away that I was hooked. Like I was like, I'm not going to ever stop this.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah. This is the magic.
I'm in.
Like
I'm
I
in.
can
Full in.
relate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Like this is I could never imagine living my life without booze and alcohol.
No, no, I'm full in like right away. Like this is it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a better life immediately for me in my mind.
And how long did it take before your drinking and drug use started causing problems?
Um, can you hear that ringing?
Yes.
It seems that my ringer is on here. I don't know how to turn that off. Um, it started causing problems right away because I already was they called it uncontrollable back then. I was
Uh-huh.
already uncontrollable. So I
Right.
already did whatever I wanted, like I'd run away, and I went from my mom's house, stepmom's house to my mom and stepdad's house. And dad had a heavy hand over me, was scared of him, wouldn't do nothing, or I wouldn't do nothing, but I'd
Now,
schedule
when did your parents split up?
divorce.
Yeah.
I was 1.5 or something, and they got
Okay.
remarried right away.
That's all you ever knew.
Yeah, I grew up with all of them in my life, all four parents. Yeah, I don't even remember it differently. So yeah, I was 11 and I moved over to mom and stepdad's house, and that was it. I took off running, There was no fear of them and of hitting me or doing anything. So I just went. So yeah, I don't remember the question.
Um, Mainly, like, how did you grow up, and if you grew up, your parents married, not married, and that was kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and so you grew up. You answered the question. You
Yeah.
grew up in two different households. Your parents were always separated, divorced. You always had two households,
Yeah.
right? You
Yep.
always had two households. So that was kind of the main question.
Yeah. That was the norm. And people do that whole thing of like nurture versus nature
Mm-hmm.
with addiction and mental health things. And for me, since I don't remember life differently or ever feeling different, it's hard to say, like, was it nature versus nurture? How did addiction come out in me? Like,
Yeah.
could it, if I would have been raised this way, would have been better, or this way? But it's really hard to say, and I don't have a finger on that pulse. I would leave science to take that one over one day, and if they can really figure it out, we'll leave it there.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Okay.
do, yeah.
Go ahead.
So, random thought.
So so going back to my question, when did you realize it was a problem?
I knew I was hooked by 13,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't care.
Right.
Yep.
I can relate to that.
Yep.
I knew I was hooked, and I didn't care. When did
Yeah.
you realize it was a problem and you needed to do something about it?
That's when I was 17. I got waved over to adult court, and I was sitting in the hole of the county jail for 3 months in isolation.
Okay.
And I said,
Wow. 3 months in the hole.
yeah, yeah,
17 years old.
yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, well, that's when I saw that maybe, those people that walk around life and they look all normal. They just wake up every day and they go to work and they love their family, all that crap. I didn't understand it. It was so weird to me. It was
Mm-hmm.
like, really, how did this ever happen? How do they do that? I would stare at that like from like 1,000 miles away is what it looked like, that type of life. And so the only choice I had at that point in life was to make fun of it, to tear it down, And so then, but when I was sitting in that cell, there was something attractive about that, like that maybe those people who literally walked on the earth, woke up and just lived, maybe I could be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Without destroying everything around me.
Okay. And then what about your parents? Did your parents know that you had a problem?
I think they knew I had yeah, I mean, I'd been through boys' homes, foster cares. By the age of 14 years old, I was taken over as a ward of the state. And I got placed in different foster cares, things like that. 5th grade was the last grade I graduated from school. 9 schools after that, I got kicked out of pretty quickly.
Uh-huh.
And I just pretty much was doing whatever I could to escape, and not be a part of whatever was in front of me, as far as the world goes.
Mm-hmm.
So my family gave up on me as much because they had to, kind of, some of them didn't even want to deal with it from the beginning. And then the ones who were trying to help couldn't really. There wasn't anything left to help with. I was too gone. It was too far.
Mm-hmm. Like
So,
out of control.
yeah, they couldn't do anything. So then it was foster home, boys home, detention centers since literally nonstop from 12 years old to 17, living on the streets, back and forth. I'd get picked up. I'd got arrested, without exaggerating, 100 times, you know. Yeah, just over and over and over and over and over. And I was like,
your poor parents.
yeah, I mean, I think mom and stepdad were the ones who were more like, what is going on? But they didn't see like how back then, I mean, we have a very different world right now.
Yeah.
Back then, the type of,
especially right now.
Well, or yeah, especially right now. But even around like how to treat people, how to treat kids, what's acceptable, what's not, what that looks like, you know. So my parents, all of them did the best they could, right? All of them came from their own tumultuous pathway. So when they brought their type of discipline to me, whether it was, we call it abuse now, right? That's what we call it. And back then that was just punishment.
Right. It's like, you know, back then they thought, hey, this is what I need to do. This is probably the parenting books told them.
Well, I don't know about that.
Or
but they
whatever.
The Bible, and they show me the Bible says the rod.
Right. Now, did you have any siblings? Do you?
Oh, yeah. It's a Brady Bunch plus, you know, so.
Okay.
4 parents, and everybody brought in kids, and then they all had more kids. And so there's 10 of us total.
Okay. Wow. Now, are you where are you in the mix?
Right in the middle.
You're right in the middle. And were there others that had a similar path? Like what happened to your brothers and sisters?
The only one that really, I mean, there's a lot of addiction layered throughout, or mental health things going on throughout with almost all of them in some fashion. And the only one that none of them have gone into recovery the way that I have. It goes from really bad, one of them really bad, going from that level of like 20 years of nonstop, or so many years. I've been clean for 25, and she hasn't stopped, right, until maybe recently.
Wow.
And so every level of living she's gone through that you could imagine. And then it goes from there to the ones who have the white picket fence, you know?
Yeah, right. Okay. So you knew you had a problem at 17.
Yeah.
You knew that this was the way to live life right away. You knew you had a problem at 17. And then the first time you really tried to get clean and sober was 19. Is that correct?
18.
18. Okay. And then for 5 years, you were kind of in and out.
Nope. I stayed clean the whole time. It just just didn't feel like I was clean. I stayed in recovery. I worked it. I was in jail for those first 2 years, like I mentioned, and I went to meetings right away, and then I got out. But life was bleak. It wasn't like this flowering abyss that some people make it out to be, or they
right.
seem to experience sometimes.
Yeah.
I didn't have that experience. I had a very long path to come to the other side of release. And I think it was about 3.5 years clean, maybe 4. And I had already worked like steps and things like that. I don't know how open we can talk about things, my path or what I did.
You can talk as openly as you want. So whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
I tried the steps and I did it, and I had a sponsor. I was going to meetings, doing all these things, but it was still like a huge veil was over me, and I couldn't escape from it. You know, I couldn't get it off. And I tried all these different things that I had in my head that I even learned through upbringing.
Yeah.
You know, I need to live like this. I need to live like this. I need to live like that. I need to be like this, and regiment my path in my life. And it was miserable. I regimented everything, and I tried all these different things I had in my head, and I finally saw that none of it was working. And then I looked back, and it was just this weird time where I looked at myself and I said, why isn't this working? And what is this? Well, I saw that it was all coming from me.
Okay.
I was still trying all my own answers.
All between your
yeah.
ears.
Yeah. Even though I'd worked the steps, I'd done all this, I was still trying all my own things. And then I said, I saw people at meetings and things like that who seemed happier than me and they had way less time. And I'm like, how is that? You
Yeah.
know? And
Uh-huh.
then I just stopped and I said, I'm going to do everything they're telling me to do. And I'm going to shut up and just try it. Everything. I'm going to give everything I have. I'm not going to listen to my head. I'm not going to listen to what it's telling me. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to put it all on the line. And I
Mhm.
put it all on the line and I walked this path with these people. And all of a sudden I look up and I knew while I was going through it, I saw something changing inside me. I saw
Mhm.
something changing, some options being given to this crazy brain that I had, this way that I processed my feelings and my intent and my how to go back into a situation that before I was ready to throw down punches. Now I could go back into the same situation and be a different person.
Right.
I didn't know how to do that before. Walk into the same situation, be a different person.
Right.
Yeah. And then
Well, it's kind of like, you know, being clean and sober is a lot different than working a program of recovery,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And when you're clean and sober and you're white knuckling it, and I mean, we've seen it and you did it yourself. It's like you pick and choose, like, these are the things that I'm going to do. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm listening to, Tim, when Tim listens to Tim, it's not good.
And that's the thing too, is sometimes where I think that's the path we have to let people walk, right? Like
Yeah.
take it away from them. Like I had to walk it. I had to go through all of those options. Luckily, I stayed clean while I was going through them.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do anything. So that was, it was good. Um, and that's what I think watching a lot of people now, allowing them and being kind and available and ready to help is where I sit a lot of times, is just allowing them to go through that battle. And that's okay.
Now, do you think, because now you're with WisHope, you guys provide peer counseling and coaching and sober. So coaching is one of the things that you guys provide. Do you think if you had access to a coach, you may have figured it out a little more quickly?
Well, I think there's like, what if I look at the whole picture, I think of the whole continuum, right, of care.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
then you look at where the gaps are in the continuum. And one of the things that sometimes um, peer coaching does is it's not this program-based approach,
Right.
right? What's that hat that a coacher, and there is difference between a peer specialist or a peer coach, right? There's
Okay.
different type of training there that's involved. And that varies from state to state. So every state is a little different. The one I talk about is peer recovery coaching, and I usually like to train on a certain model.
Okay.
And can I say the model?
Yeah. Which model do you like?
I like the 𝐶𝐿 model.
Okay.
Yep. So, um, and with that, then the whole objective is to find out what this person needs or wants.
Mm-hmm.
What do they want to keep using? That's cool, man. You mind if I call you tomorrow?
Okay. Right.
Like, okay, as
Yeah.
long as they let them stay in their life, right? So I had therapists, counselors through the years, social workers when I was younger, I had all that stuff. And they tried to connect, but none of them were in recovery or had those life altering experiences where they could actually truly understand. They had great hearts, big hearts. They tried hard. And that is the impact still that made a difference on me. That simple kindness of people wanting to help me and showing me that was part of that change, knowing that was available out there in the world when I wanted to change. I knew it was there somewhere, right? So peer coaching is one of those hats. Now we're kind of putting a process to having that available for people and putting a name on it, right? So it's not a sponsor, it's not a counselor, it's not a therapist. It's somebody who simply understands, because of their own life experience, has been trained, and can walk into your bubble of your life and say, no, it's okay. I'm here, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm available. Where do you want? You need detox, or you just want to stay home use, you want to go to treatment, you want to go to the doctor, I'll hook you up with those resources. Not a problem.
Right. There are people out there that think that a sponsor is the same thing as a coach. And I'm sure you've heard it. It's people say, well, I have a sponsor. Why do I need a coach? I have a sponsor. I have a therapist. I'm working the steps. I'm good. And you hear parents, same thing. They're like, well, he has a therapist. He has a sponsor. I don't understand why he would need a coach. What's your response to that?
So a sponsor has one direction, right? Their direction is 12-step based. It's based on the model. Obviously, I just talked about my experience with 12 steps. Love it. Amazing. But the world is much bigger than that. Mm-hmm. And the world is changing, and there is a lot of options around how to recover and where that goes and what that looks like. Or even a person may not be ready for that kind of approach of 12 steps, not like it. We need to have that interim person. A therapist is somebody who's been trained from a book and from going, literally working in the field and learned how to engage. They may not necessarily have the personal experience, but even if they do, they typically don't self-disclose that either. Mm-hmm. Right? So a coach self-discloses and has every pathway available to them under the sun, even if that person wants to do something different that I didn't. Mm-hmm. I'm not here to judge that. I'm non-judgmental, right? Like about that as a coach, that hat, like, cool, man, let's figure it out. Let's find out how we can get you there. You want to go to refuge, smart, you don't want to do any of that. You want to do straight edge, whatever you want to do. You want to stay, like I said, you want to keep using. Cool. You mind if I stay in your life?
Right. Yeah.
That's it. I'm just here, man. Like whatever path you're looking for. And I know what you're doing now because I've been there. I know how that feels. Mm-hmm. Right. I've been there. So I know what that feels like for you. So I can self-disclose that. I'm not a therapist in that way. You can open that door. You're not trying to provide counseling. You're just trying to provide understanding and connection. Mm-hmm. And so those two different things. You got the sponsor here, typically 12-step path. Yep. You got a therapist here, very professional. You're done in an hour or whatever your time is. You got the coach in the middle. Mm-hmm. Right? And so the sponsor, that's one part. And then you've got all these other community-based programs over here. Celebrate Recovery, Refuge, Smart Recovery, so many different ones, right? Option-wise. So the coach is this interconnected person. And even if they need like a medical doctor or other things, the coaches can help connect that person to any of that. Either way.
Right. The coach's scope is much broader, is what I'm hearing you say.
It is.
It's not just 12-step. It's not just Smart Recovery. It's not just Celebrate Recovery. It's not just Refuge Recovery. A coach is going to literally, and this has kind of been my experience, is the coach is going to help them develop some new lifestyle habits, because it's a lot more than just working the steps, right? And a therapist is digging into the past, digging into the trauma. They're available by appointment only. Typically, it's going to be once a week or once every couple weeks. A coach can be every day. It can be multiple times a day. It can be text. It can be phone. It can be video conference. It can be, let's go to the movies. It can be, let's help you write a resume. It can be, we need to find you a job. It can be the new relationship because they want to start dating and now they're clean and sober for the first time, dating, clean and sober for the very first time. They're getting a divorce. They're like all of these other things that life throws at us, and we're clean and sober for the very first time ever, trying to navigate life.
Yep. And so with that, that's that middle part, right? They're a bridge to all the pieces. So allowing that person to be there, there's no skin off of somebody's back, right? And then they can, of course, with like the 𝐶𝐿 model, there is, like you talked about, life skills. Once you get into that and the person wants to engage with the coach on a plan of sorts.
Yeah.
There's plenty of plans out there that are like the 𝐶𝐿 has a plan. There's many life skill plans or overall wellness plans to help this person with. So that, again, it's that middle ground. And it's a great connector. So what have helped me I don't see how it wouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, of course, like some person who's been there before saying, "Hey, yeah, I'm here. Hey, Peter, what are you doing?" You know, "Oh, you're running away again." Like,
Yeah.
but back then it is a little different because we didn't have cell phones back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
We didn't really have computers like this.
Yeah. Times are definitely different. I mean,
How we've gotten old fast, Tim. I'm just saying.
yeah, time. I mean, it's just crazy. Yeah, your coach could have paged you.
Yeah, yeah. That was like if drug dealers, you drug deal pagers.
Yeah, drug dealers have pagers. Right. Yeah, no, it's and so like, what have you like? What works in your? We have the entire recovery continuum, and we've got detox, treatment, IOP, PHP, um, peer recovery coaching, counseling, sponsorship, 12 steps. Like you've been around, you've been working in the field, and you've worked in several different capacities. And right
Mhm.
now, peer recovery coaching is something that you're really passionate about. So I guess why are you? What have you seen that like what works? Why are you so passionate about peer recovery coaching?
Well, like I've been saying, it's that bridge, it's that middle ground, right? So any part of that continuum that we're missing, that as people who are working in the field, then how can we engage it? So if there's a way that whatever organization you're a part of can engage to keep that part of that process going for anybody you're connected to that needs attention, we'll call it. Why wouldn't we, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's this thing that I look at and I think about how to change our culture. So drug use, and we're going to say alcohol because alcohol is a drug, use in general isn't bad, right? It's not a bad thing.
Right.
But it's more of like a culture. How can we adjust culture? And the more that we're engaged in our community at different levels, the more, oops, sorry, thought I missed something. My wife was texting me. I was like, oh, I did something wrong. But more that we can engage in like that continuum in our community and be planted, it's going to change culture, right? So more coaches that are out there, more that are available. So you're talking about the workplace, organizations, you're talking about first responders, police departments, hospitals. How can we get into all these places? I think it's with that peer hat, right? And we're seeing that happen across the nation. And that's going to slowly adjust the cultural view. And there's a lot of sensitivity talk around a lot of different topics these days. So I think that this is one of those areas. What happens when that sensitivity talk comes in is culture shifts. And I'm hoping that this is going to be part of that culture shift. For a long time, we've had a campaign of just say no, right? A lot of us have watched, I'm forgetting the name of the movie, Anonymous
People.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the history of how we went from being productive around trying to engage community members with understanding and learning about substance use or mental health, it turned into a just say no campaign, right? And I'm saying mental health and substance abuse because when you run into anybody these days who has substance abuse issues that are at a decent level, almost everybody I run into has a mental health issue at this point. Like it's like a 90%er, right? It seems like very high percent.
Yeah.
And that, like you run quite a few homes as well. So you see the population mix and there's a lot of people that have both going on. So I don't want to miss that or not address that. So I think that culture will shift and we'll get away from saying just say no. Even in the workplace, like what's the policy look like in collegiate environments? What's that look like across the country? Systemic change, right? And it's probably going to happen state by state in different layers and different timetables. But this peer recovery coach is a great advocate for that. It's a great part of that movement.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And I would compare it to like anything in life that we do.
Mm-hmm.
If we have a coach, we're gonna learn, excel, hit our goal. I mean, it's like we're going to be better faster. You know, I have a triathlon coach, and I could do triathlons without a coach. I could
Sure.
be totally fine. And there are lots of people out there that don't have a coach. I have a coach.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've been fortunate enough. I mean, I see the value in coaching, and
Yeah.
I have business coaches. I have, you know, it's like if you have an individual coach, you're you're going to do better. Like, so if you have somebody else that's by your side, that's helping you set goals, that's holding you accountable to the goals that you set, that's supporting you, it's an advocate, it's a friend, it's a, you know, there's just a lot to it. And that's the same thing. I mean, I view that the same way as a recovery coach. It's just somebody, a life coach. It's
Yeah.
somebody else that's not you, somebody outside of Tim that's giving Tim feedback. That's because Tim is where Tim's at today because of what's up here and because of Tim's environment. And so a person newly in recovery, like they're thinking, it's like, as they say in the rooms, their best thinking got them where they are today.
Yeah. And I think for me with the coaching part, I try to stay away from some of the specifics around my personal experiences and try to keep going back to that simple connection with the person, right? Whoever I'm in front of. So a coach's hat is just showing them the connection, that I get it, looking them in the eyes when they tell me da 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 da, whatever it is, letting them know, yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, and I don't have to go much further, right? It's just them knowing that I'm here as a resource for any direction they're looking to go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not going to take them to a drug dealer's house, but
right.
any movement toward changing their life and their needs, I'm here, right? And I understand, and so they know that trust is there, and that bond is built from a different foundation, right? It's built off of me knowing that you're in pain or you're struggling with something, and I've struggled too. Let's move forward. Where do you want to go?
Right.
You know, and that's it. You know,
How long would you say, like when should a person, let's say a person goes to treatment and they're in sober living, they're in IOP, they're in PHP, when is a good time for them to connect with a peer recovery coach?
anytime.
Okay.
Anytime. So even if you connect with them out in the community and you end up getting them into detox and treatment, and are you going to let them go because now they're there? No. Mm-mm.
They're
I'm
there. Yeah.
still a part of their life the whole time.
And I've heard I was actually just talking with a fellow yesterday. He's in treatment. He's gonna do IOP, PHP and IOP after he discharges. And he said, I want to do coaching after I'm done with PHP and IOP.
Yeah.
What's your thought? What is your thought on that?
Yeah, 100%, because you don't want to stop. I'd even start if they're in IOP, PHP right now, I'd have a coach connected to them already, right? So how PHP, IOP help us in many ways in recovery, in the sense of unfolding some of the pieces and the layers that have happened, and learn a quick learning platform for learning to engage with people socially in a group environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and it helps us fold with different therapeutic approaches while we're going through that, and start to help create different patterns of thinking and thought around feeling and all that. So while that person's going through it, you also want to help connect them to community connection, right? Because they're not always going to go to PHP or IOP. They're not always going to have a therapist. So how can you have their community and those base life skills happening once they leave that environment of the PHP, IOP, or the therapist office, right?
And what happens if they have an issue with the therapist that's running group?
Then it's time for them to learn how to engage with somebody that they have issues with.
Right, exactly. And my point is, because I think we're on the same page. The recovery coach is the bridge,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's the bridge. The sooner you can get a coach involved, the better off, because a coach is going to help promote a smooth transition from treatment to detox to treatment to PHP to IOP, and it's the person that's going to, I mean, it's like we both have seen somebody leave IOP AMA. It's like the coach is there to support them. It's like, hey man, you can leave early if you want. However, you know, it's like, let's talk this through.
And it's building that bridge. So sorry about this. I would have disconnected that. I didn't realize it was connected to my computer, that ringer.
Yeah. There's a setting on your on Zoom where you can disable notifications during a Zoom call.
No.
Zoom's pretty smart. Just so you know.
Learn that.
Yeah. So not now. You can do that later. Okay. So,
I thought it was right here somewhere. I was like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah.
No, that's great. No, we've got Zoom too. So we've been quick learners on these platforms, of course.
Right.
So what else are we thinking? Any other good questions?
Let's see here. So recovery coach. So what I heard you say is a recovery coach is a bridge, and a recovery coach can be involved sooner or later, whenever. A recovery coach is a bridge, regardless of where a person's at in their journey through recovery. And I think we're on the same page. Recovery coaching is becoming more and more popular because it's helpful for a person to have a coach, an advocate, a friend, and somebody to help them with more than what a therapist does and more than what a sponsor does.
Yeah, and I think it's good to notate too, of as far as the history of this, it's not a new thing. It's been going on a long time, and peer kind of approach is utilized in a lot of different areas of medicine. And so say you go get heart surgery, or you have to, there's a lot of peer connection as best practice, and it's utilized across a lot of different platforms in medicine. So that's an interesting thought when you think about it, you know, cancer patients, the peer connection is used everywhere. Why wouldn't we use it here in this arena? It just simply makes sense. And how many writings are done on it? I'm sure you're familiar with William White, Slay the Dragon, you know, so
white papers. Yep.
So there's a lot of information out there as far as utilizing and best practice around peer recovery coaching.
Right.
I wanted to say that because that is an important thing. It's not like this is a new thing. And it's not like it's a non-best practice thing. It just hasn't been utilized in the recovery space as much as it could be.
Right. And that's kind of the direction that we're headed because we see success.
Correct.
And it works.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that you think is important that you might want to share with people?
I don't know. That's all I got, I think. I mean, I think the other part about peer recovery coaching is that if you look at it, the concept of it, it should also, you also want to have people that are within an organization doing the coaching, and you want to know that that peer recovery coach has a supervisor that's overseeing what they're doing to ensure the process is still an ethical program and the standards are being met, that's adhered to at least by the organization, right? So there's a lot of people that run around and coach, I'm a coach, and they may not have a very good foundation yet themselves. So if people are looking for a coach, they'd want to get one that does have a supervisor that's working internally from an organization or contracted by, and know that that's part of a best practice.
And I think that's a really good point, and that brings up something else for me. We have people out there that are sponsors, that sponsor guys, and they're not always, like for example, I've seen sponsors ask to borrow $10,000 from a sponsee, and that's not okay.
No, and that's the thing with rules. These rules too, guidelines are how to work as a peer recovery coach. That hat, You know, then when you wear that hat, what are the guidelines? You don't even give people rides. You know, if you're following that protocol, like our internal protocol is, if you're a peer recovery coach for someone, you don't give them rides. You'll meet them there. You'll help them get the bus route.
Yeah.
Or where to get we have bubbler bikes here. I don't know if you have bikes for rent on the corner, but we have bubbler bikes so they can get a bubbler bike. You know how to do
like a Lime bike where you use an app to rent the bike for
yeah
a minute or whatever.
Yep. So I mean, how to connect people to that, to get to where they need to go. And then, you know, we don't give them money, right? There's all these little basic rules that you would think are common sense, but they're not.
Right. I get it.
And so then knowing that there's a supervisor checking in with that coach on a weekly or bi-weekly basis and going through their roster of their coach recoveries, we'll call them, or individuals that they know that somebody's actually guiding that path for someone else, right? Mm-hmm. And that's an important process, or piece of the process. So any new educational requirements, furthering their professionalism as a coach, what they can do to do that. And I would suggest going to the 𝐒𝐔𝐁 website. I think that they've got everything that you would need at this point. I think personally, I love what they do, and I think that they have everything you'd need right on their site. And any trainings that you're looking for are published there as well.
Awesome.
And I don't work for 𝐒𝐔𝐁.
Thank you for the disclaimer.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Peter, it was really great getting to chat with you today. Do you want to tell everybody how they can find out more about you and more about your program?
Oh, sure. Go on our website, WisHope, like Wisconsin Hope, .org, WisHope.org. And then also, if you want to give us a phone call, it's 844-WIS-HOPE.
Awesome. Thanks again, Peter. Hope you have an awesome day, and we'll catch up with you later.
All right. Bye, Tim.
Bye.